on sides of sanctuary. My heart had joy and merit. I'm renovating my soul until we make it home. Foolish sins forever gone. Got spirit resting on my bones. Brothers and sisters, you with me? Let's purge ourselves really quickly. Make our souls polished and spiffy. So we gone.
We gon' march to the city of God. We gon' dance, we gon' sleep, we gon' run to the city, we gon' fly to the city of God. We gon' march to the city of God. We gon' dance, we gon' sleep, we gon' run to the city of God.
Praises to the Most High for getting me out, for blessing me with understanding of what you talking about. My sins are too many, I thought another God could save. To you will woke me from a slumber, pull me right from my grave. And now that I'm saved, I'm blessed to know or understand truth. That no blessing, no curses coming, least is coming through you. I sing praises to my Yah, to my very last breath. And use your laws as a ladder if I ever misstep. Let's praise the Most High, Yah, pay His holy name. Regard, we have come a long way, yet we got so far before we right before our King. All of His saints sing till we the sons of righteousness with healings up in our wings. We gon'
fly to the city of God. We gon' march to the city of God. We gon' dance, we gon' sing, we gon' run to the city, we gon' fly to the city of God. We gon' march to the city of God. We gon' dance, we gon' sing, we gon' run to the city of God.
I wanna go, I wanna go,
I wanna go,
I wanna go, I wanna go, I wanna go home, I wanna go home. Wicked, I won't get down, wicked, I won't get down now. I wanna go, I wanna go, I wanna go, I wanna go. I wanna go home, I wanna go home. Wicked, I won't get down, wicked, I won't get down now. I wanna go, I wanna go, I wanna go, I wanna go, I wanna go home, I wanna go home. Wicked, I won't get down, wicked, I won't get down now. I wanna go, I wanna go, I wanna go, I wanna go. Yeah, I wanna go home, I wanna go home, I wanna go home. So
Shalom, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, giving all praise and honor to the Holy One of Israel, to the Creator of the heaven, the earth, the sea, and all that is therein is, by saying hallelujah. Praise the mighty Yah. Yah is righteous. Yah is holy. And let Yahweh be magnified. Once again, the Creator has allowed us to come before you another day, bringing to you His great, holy, and exalted words, even the words of truth. My name is Moreh Ishaya Yisrael of the House of Israel, located right here in Cincinnati, Ohio, 2330 Kemper Lane, bringing to you nothing but the truth. And yes, it is true. All we're going to do is tell you the truth. For Yah ordained me to tell you the truth, and this is what I'm going to do. And who is this Yah? Yah is the creator of the heaven, the earth, the sea, and all that is therein is. Yah is the Elohim of our fathers, the Elohim of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yisrael, whom you may know as Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Yah is our king, He's our judge, He's our lawgiver, and Yah is our only Savior. And not just of Israel, Yah is the Savior of the world. And again, I praise the mighty Yah for another opportunity to bring to you His great, holy, and exalted words. Yesterday, we dealt with the king, showing you how we how the Most High looks at a king. How the Most High will bring about his king. And you notice, his king was a man after his own heart. So when we look at the various examples that we are to follow, we don't look from the bottom up. We look from the top down. No wonder the Creator said, the leaders of this people caused them to err. Because we're looking at bottom up. We are comparing ourselves to one another rather than comparing ourselves to the heart, to the mind, to the thoughts of the Most High. And when we look at the king, the type of king that Yahweh wanted us to have, that Yahweh commanded the king to do, he said that the king was one that would write a copy of the law, read it all the days of his life, and particularly when he sits on his throne. And why? So that he will learn to fear Yahweh. Now, is that what you're doing? Even though you're not a king, but you say you want to learn to fear Yahweh. Well, this is one of the ways you fear Yahweh. He also told the king that not only are you to do this to fear Yahweh, but you also to do this to keep his commandments, his laws, his statutes, and his judgments, that your heart may not be lifted up above your brethren. In other words, today, from one teacher to the next, one Nasi to the next, one Kohen to the next, one brother to the next, is always this attitude that, how can you be over me? You're not to be over me. Well, in truth, everybody got somebody over them. But whether somebody is above you or whether somebody is below you, the heart is never to change. Your heart is never to be lifted above anyone, none of your brethren. And we have allowed our heart as leaders to be lifted above our brethren. Why you think a man would tell his wife, I'm the man? Well, I know you're a man. Your heart is not to be caught up because you're a man, because you're a king, because you have a certain position above me. Your heart is supposed to be balanced. It's supposed to be the same. The heart that you have is the same heart that I'm supposed to have. And our hearts, according to the scriptures, is supposed to be contrite, broken, low, and humble. That's what the Creator himself said, that he delight and desire in such a king as this. And why do you think Yahweh said he chose a man after his own heart? And we're not to get that confused. So now we can look to the king. The Almighty says, seek David. He wasn't telling you to seek a man. He was telling you to seek, search, and look for a certain type of man that you're able to follow. And why? Because this man will exemplify the type of heart that Yahweh wants you to have. And if Yahweh wants us to have the same type of heart, then we need to look at the best heart available. And who is the best heart that's available? A man after his own heart. And this is what we're showing you today. We, the leaders, have greatly caused the people to err because they don't realize that they are to exemplify. They are supposed to be the instrument of the truth, the righteousness, and the judgment of Yahweh. That was the king. But what about the next greatest position in Israel? Well, if you don't know what that is, go to the book of Hosea, the 3rd chapter, where we started our discussion yesterday. And watch what this says. Because this is what you're going to learn from the Most High. You're going to learn a lot of order. Everything must be in order. And make no mistake about it, we have completely been out of order. So we're talking about the prince. And watch what this says in Hosea, the 3rd chapter, the 4th verse. For the children of Israel shall dwell many days without a king, because the king is the top dog, the top position, the highest position that man can achieve. He can't be an angel. He can't be a cherubim or a seraphim, but he can be a king on earth. But then the second thing, the second highest position is next. For the children of Israel shall dwell many days without a king. Then it says, without a prince. The word prince comes from the Hebrew word nasi. And you're going to see how important the prince is. The word prince in of itself declares a certain type of honor, a certain type of power, a certain type of peculiarness about yourself. Now, in all the various nations, they have, especially in the ancient world, they had princes. And all of them weren't honorable because all of them wasn't from the Most High. They didn't keep his ways. They were not about his order. But we are as Israel. And so no wonder the leaders caused the people here that there's no king. Because we dwell many days without one. There's no prince. Because we dwelt many days without one. And the leaders don't want to tell you the truth and just let you know they are the problem. It's not the sisters. It's not the wives. It's not the daughters. No, our sons. It is the leaders. They are the problem. And let's see what the Creator say about this prince. As a matter of fact, the very first time the word prince was used in the scriptures, and let me show you who this was used with, because Yahweh will give you a picture. And why? Because a picture is worth 1,000 words. And this is how we learn. We learn through pictures. Our picture is the examples that's before us. And if the leaders are not demonstrating, showing you how to live, then they're not good leaders at all. Leaders are supposed to show you, demonstrate to you, and be the picture of the thing that they are teaching. So if a leader can't get along with everybody, look at the leader. What the leaders will have you do, they will have you looking at the people. Watch this in the book of Genesis 23. And watch the very first prince that the scriptures even speak about. Whether he was the first one or not is irrelevant to me, because he's the first one the scriptures speak about. And watch what it says in the book of Genesis, the 23rd chapter. And I'm going to start at the very first verse. I'm sorry, Genesis 23 and 1. And Sarah was 107 and 20 years old. These were the years of the life of Sarah. Sarah died in Kiryat Arba, the same as Hebron, in the land of Canaan. And Abraham came to mourn for Sarah and to weep for her. And Abraham stood up before his dead and spoke to the sons of Heth, saying, I am a stranger and a foreigner with you. Give me a possession of a burying place with you, that I may bury my dead out of my sight. And the children of Heth answered Abraham, saying to him, Hear us, my Lord, or my master. Watch what, this is what the Canaanites were saying to Abraham. Watch how they talk to him. The 5th verse, and the children of Heth answered Abraham, saying to him, Hear us, my master. You are a mighty prince among us. In the choice of our scepters, bury your dead. In other words, you choose. You choose the best. None of us shall withhold from you his scepter, but that you may bury your dead. And you notice they called this man a mighty prince. Not just a prince, but a mighty prince. This is the first person in the scriptures I even seen called a prince, period. The word mighty comes from the Hebrew word El, which is the short form or the singular form of Elohim. So what they really were saying, you are a El Nasi. Like you like a Elohim. A princely Elohim. You're a mighty prince. And to be called a mighty prince, then that can only mean that your conduct, your behavior, your example is one of Elohim. And when we read about the story of Abraham, we know it's Elohimly. And the Creator said, we shall abide many days without a king and without a prince. Because a prince was one of our leaders. And who can be a better example than Prince Abraham, who was a mighty prince? As a matter of fact, I don't even think I've seen anyone in the scriptures called a mighty prince other than him, even though many was called a prince. And watch the very next person that I seen, because you're going to see how important a prince is. And you're going to understand why this lesson is so important. We showed you with a king, and one of the greatest kings that ever lived was David. And the Almighty said, this is a man after my own heart. So if you're trying to strive to be the best you can be, would not you want to be a man after Yah's own heart? Well, if you want to, you got a king that represented this thing. And why? Because it's the leaders that cause the people to err. The leaders is looking at everybody else shaking their head, not realizing the people looking at the leaders shaking their heads. And who's right? The people are right. Because the leaders are supposed to be the examples of the very thing that they teach, the very thing that they say, the very thing that they believe. How are you going to teach people that anger rests in the bosom of fools and you always angry? Can't get along with nobody. Got issues and problems with everybody. How are you going to be an example of truth and you're not long suffering, and you jumping in everybody's face, and you got to tell everybody their sin, but don't want to listen to people tell you your sin? How are you an example of truth when you're not humble? You're full of pride. Watch this in the book of Genesis 32. Talking about the prince. And I don't even got to tell you, Abraham was a very humble man. Abraham was a very wise man. Abraham was so righteous that the Creator said, look unto the rock from whence you are hewn. And why did he say that? Because he said, hearken unto me, ye that follow after righteousness. Ye that seek Yahweh. In other words, you seeking the Most High. You seeking righteousness. He told you to look up under a certain rock. And he said, Abraham is that rock. No wonder he's the first man that I seen in the scriptures called a prince. The first man in the scriptures I seen called a prophet. The first man in the scriptures I even see pray. The first man that I seen in the scriptures where the word of Yahweh came into him saying. The first man that I seen in the scriptures who Yahweh will come to in a vision and a dream. And the very first man I seen in the scriptures where Yahweh went to eat meat and bread with. You had to The examples that we have don't start at the bottom, they start at the top. Because he was a mighty prince. But watch this. To show you what a mighty prince is, watch this in the book of Genesis 32. Because the word mighty actually come from the Hebrew word Elohim. In the book of Genesis 32, and I'm going to start reading and I love this story here. In the book of Genesis 32. We're going to start at the 17th verse. Genesis 32 and 17, so you can understand this story. And he commanded the foremost, saying, when Esau my brother meets you, and asks you, saying, whose are you, and where go you, and who are these before you? Because Jacob would separate everybody. And I want you to see how he did this. Then you shall say, they are your servants Jacob's. It is a present sent unto my master Esau. And behold, also he is behind us. And so commanded he the second and the third and all that followed the herd, saying, on this manner shall you speak to Esau when you find him. And say you more, behold, your servant Jacob is behind us. For he said, I will appease him with the present that goes before me, and afterward I will see his face. Perhaps he will accept me. So when the present over before him, and himself lodged that night in the company, and he rose up that night, took his 2 wives, and his 2 women servants, and his 11 sons, passed over the ford Jabbok. And he took them and sent them over the brook, sent over what he had. And Jacob was left alone, and there wrestled a man with him until the breaking of the day. And when he saw that he prevailed not against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh, and the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint as he wrestled with him. And he said, let me go, for the day breaks. And he said, I will not let you go unless you bless me. And he said to him, what is your name? And he said, Jacob. And he said, your name shall be called no more Jacob, but Yisrael. And watch what Yisrael means. For as a prince have you power with Elohim and with men, and have prevailed. Because his grandfather was a mighty prince. His father was a mighty prince. And now, as you can see, he has become a mighty prince. Why? Because the word power means mighty. And we already said with Elohim and men. So in other words, for as a prince have you El, which means mighty, which means power. And what comes with that? Great honor. And how do we know that? Because he was blessed. The angel said, I'm going to bless you. And Jacob asked him and said, tell me, I pray you, your name. And he said, why is it that you do ask after my name? And he blessed him there. That's where he blessed him. Right there. And I noticed when Jacob divided his sons and daughters, This is how he would do it. In the book of Genesis 33:1. And Jacob lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, Esau came, and with him 400 men. And he divided the children of Leah, and unto Rachel, and unto the two handmaids. And he put the handmaids and their children foremost. In other words, they was before everything. And why would he put the handmaids first? Did he put the handmaids first because they were somehow better speaking? No. Did he put them first because maybe they can appeal to Esau better and they will be more humble? No. Well, he put them first because the handmaids were owned. They were owned by his wives. So he put them first with their children. He wouldn't have put his greatest love. He wouldn't have put the most important people to him first because he didn't know what Esau would do. And make no mistake about it, Yahweh don't put anything beside his people. He said he will give people for your life, nations for you. In other words, and a lot of nations died because of Israel. A lot of people, life got taken because of Israel, because that's how much Yahweh loved his sons. So we see Jacob, he put his handmaids first and their children. Then he put Leah and her children after the handmaids and their children. And he had two handmaids that became his wives. Then he put Leah and her children after. And why? Because even though he loved her, she still was not his greatest love. So he put Rachel and Joseph last. Why? Because that was his greatest love. This is how he ordered everything. But you would have never put the handmaids last and put everybody else first. Because the handmaids are like slaves, but they weren't slaves. They were owned, and they had to be treated with respect. But this is the second great prince in the scriptures. And even though in Genesis 34, it talks about another prince that's not of our people. But watch what it says about this prince who will be vile in our eyes. Watch this in the book of Genesis 34, because we're talking about the examples we should be following. And it starts at the top. It starts with the head, not the bottom. It starts with the head. We started with the king. Now we at the prince, and no wonder the leaders cause the people to err. Because we don't have a certain type of mind. We don't have a certain type of heart. We think The people hard-headed and won't listen. We think the people won't do right. And they didn't. It is true. But it's because of the leaders. And nobody can take that away. Because the scriptures say the leaders cause the people to err. And I can see how. Because as a leader, as I am, we've been thinking backwards for many years. We think people are supposed to please us when we're supposed to please them. We think the flock's supposed to cater to us and we're supposed to cater to the flock. We're supposed to be taking care of them, but yet in our mind and our heart, you're supposed to take care of us. I'm the top dog. You're supposed to bow before me. See, that's how we think in our mind. Why you not bowing before me? Why you not looking to me? Why you not? Don't we supposed to feed them, take care of them, protect them, guard them, house them, clothe them? Not the other way around, brothers. Leaders. Watch what it says in Genesis 34. And Dinah, the daughter of Leah, was she born to Jacob, went out to see the daughters of the land. And when Shechem, the son of Hamor the Hivite, prince of the country, saw her, he took her and lay with her and defiled her. What kind of mess is that? Just because you see somebody, that don't mean you can just take her, lay with her, and defile her. Here it is, you got women walking down the street with mini skirts. And you got men and women, in particularly women, they will look at this woman with this mini skirt and they will turn their nose up. Why? Does that mean she's a whore? That don't tell you that because she got on a mini skirt. In other words, that still don't tell you what's in her heart. Maybe nobody told her. Maybe she couldn't even find another dress in her size like she wanted. Maybe everything was mingled. That was good, as we kind of finding out. There could be a lot of reasons why she got on a mini skirt, but it don't have to be because she a whore. Men that see that mini skirt, they think it's a license to talk to her any kind of way, to touch her, and even rape her. You got on a mini skirt, your breasts hanging out. What you think I was going to do? You calling for me. Well, did she say your name? Did she open her mouth, give you permission to touch her? And who the example? Are you the example or is she the example? And so we just got this backwards mindset. Turn up our nose to people. Why? You better than her? You don't even know her. And here it is. I done heard Israelites criticize Dinah. Why is she out there anyway? What, she can't go see the daughters of the land without being raped? Without being defiled? Without being laid with? Took her, she got to be closed up in the house. That's the only way she can be safe. And look who did it. It wasn't one of the lowest of the country. It wasn't one of the dogs of the country. Watch this in the second verse. And when Shechem, the son of Hamor, the Hivite, prince of the country, saw her, he took her, he lay with her, and defiled her. In other words, this was one of their princes. And this was no honor at all. No honor at all. Very dishonorable. But watch what it says about this man. Even though he was a prince, and a prince is supposed to be honorable. And it's a good thing that he wanted to marry her. But who would want to marry a man after being assaulted, insulted, raped, dealt with in the vile way that she was dealt with? Watch what it says about this. The 18th verse. And their words pleased Hamor and Shechem, Hamor's son, because they said, just get circumcised. But they was deceiving them. And the young man deferred not to do the thing because he had delight in Jacob's daughter. In other words, whatever they was going to ask him, he was going to do. But why was he going to do it? He was a prince. And watch what it says. And he was more honorable than all the house of his father. He was the most honorable. So he had and was endowed with something in him as a prince to do some good, even though he still was a dog. But he was the most honorable of them because he was a prince. And there's a certain level of honor, and he wasn't going to be like an Israelite, because an Israelite or a Hebrew, like Jacob was, like Abraham was, like Isaac was, being a prince was essential. It was honorable. It was the example that we as men were supposed to lead by. And if you're not the heir of a prince, it's only because you've allowed yourself to be deceived. And if you're looking at the lowest of us trying to be an example, you're looking at the wrong thing. You're supposed to be looking at the best. And this is the top dogs, the kings, the prince. Watch what the scripture says about this prince in the book of Numbers, the first chapter, to show you who our princess was. Numbers 1. In the book of Numbers 1, and watch what this says. In the book of Numbers, the first chapter, the second verse. Take you the sum of all the congregation of the children of Israel after their name, families, by the house of their fathers, with the number of their names, every male by their heads. From 20 years old and upward, all that are able to go forth to war in Israel, you and Aaron shall number them by their armies. And with you there shall be a man of every tribe, every one head of the house of his father. And let me show you what they call these heads, because it's going to name their names. But as soon as you get to the 16th verse, because it lets you know who the heads are. Watch this. Numbers 1 and 16. These were the renowned of the congregation. And what do the word renowned mean? In other words, this is the cream of the crop. This is the best. These were the renowned of the congregation, princes of the tribes of their fathers, heads of thousands in Israel. And Moshe and Aaron took these men which are expressed by their names. In other words, this was the cream of the crop. These was the top men, because that's what a prince supposed to be. The top, the most special, the ones who kept the laws, commandments, statutes, and judgments, the ones who had to exemplify, demonstrate how you were to conduct yourself, because they were the heads. They were the leaders, like the king. So was the prince. And what was the character of any prince? Watch this. Show you the character of a prince, so you'll know what you're looking at when you see it. In the book of Isaiah, the 9th chapter, watch what the Creator said about this prince. See, some people might not know you. When you come into town, who are you? What are you? I'm a Hebrew. But little do they know, I might be a mighty prince. Watch this in Isaiah, the 9th chapter, the 6th verse. For unto us a child is born. This is a prophecy. Unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty Elohim. Why you
60 seconds.
Abraham was called a mighty prince? Why you think Jacob was called a prince that has power with Elohim and man? The everlasting Father. And watch what it says. The Prince of Peace. Now you see the type of leaders we supposed to have. We don't have supposed to have leaders that's always fussing and cussing and trying to fight and fuss and start trouble. Nobody can get along with them. That's not the type of leaders we're supposed to have. If we're going to be a mighty prince, we're supposed to be a prince of peace. Yahweh never called his prince a prince of war, even though the Prince of Peace was a mighty warrior. What greater warrior did we have than David? And not only Yahweh said David will be a king, he will also be the prince. Because not only do Yahweh want a certain type of king that can walk before you and show you the way, which is his way, he also wants you to have a certain type of prince that can show you the way, which is the way of Yahweh. And let me show you what the Creator said about his other prince. But let me finish the 7th verse. Of the increase of his government and peace there shall be no end upon the throne of David and upon his kingdom, to order it, to establish it with judgment and with justice from now on, even forever. The zeal of Yahweh of hosts will perform this. In other words, Yahweh wants a certain type of king, but he's also want a certain type of prince, and you reading with your own eyes the type of prince. A prince of peace. And not only that, this prince was so peculiar to Yahweh. Watch what Yahweh say about this prince. In the book of Ezekiel 44. In the book of Ezekiel 44. So we got a king that will lead us by example. We got a prince that will lead us by example. No wonder the leaders cause the people to err, because undoubtedly we don't know what Yahweh see in a king or a prince, because these were our leaders. And if you call yourself leading anybody today, then how are you leading them? Because don't your heart supposed to be perfect with Yahweh, and you call yourself a leader, and your heart is not perfect with Yah? Watch this in the book of Ezekiel 44. The very first verse. Then he brought me back the way of the gate of the outward sanctuary, which looks towards the east, and it was shut. Then said Yahweh to me, this gate shall be shut. It shall not be opened, and no man shall enter in by it, because Yahweh, the Elohim of Israel, has entered in by it. Therefore, it shall be shut. So Yahweh instructs, don't open this door for no man. This is the door I come in. The door I go out of. Don't let no man come in this door. But watch the third verse. It is for the prince. The prince, he shall sit in it to eat bread before Yahweh. He shall enter by the way of the porch of thy gate, and shall go out by the way of the same. In other words, the same door Yahweh will go in is the same door that the prince was going in. And why? Because once Yahweh have the type of prince that he's looking for, his heart's desire, his delight, a heart of a servant that's a man after his own heart, that's perfect with him, sure you can walk in this gate. I love you. I delight in you. You with me, so I'm going to be with you. And you walk right in this gate. And you can eat right before me. Did not Abraham eat before Yahweh? Yahweh joined him. And what was Abraham called? A mighty prince. No wonder people go around saying today, why ain't angels done showed up to us? Why ain't angels and the Most High hasn't spoke his voice out of heaven to us? Maybe because you're no prince at all. Maybe because you're no king at all. Maybe you need to up your game, your standards to the ways of the Most High. Because this is what happened to the king, as well as the prince of old. And this is exactly what will happen to the king and the prince in the future. Because they take a certain conduct, a certain behavior, certain attitude. We looking down and not up. It's the leaders who's causing the people to err. But we looking at other people, the lowest of us, not the greatest and the highest that we supposed to be. In the book, since we're in Ezekiel, Yahweh let us know who our prince going to be. What's this in Ezekiel 34? The 23rd verse. And I will set up one shepherd over them, and he shall feed them, even my servant David. He shall feed them. He shall be their shepherd. Why? Because the shepherds today, they don't feed the flock. They don't look out for the flock. They don't care if the flock is diseased. Not the shepherds today. The shepherds today feed themselves. And they take no responsibility for the flock. So Yahweh said, I'm going to set up one shepherd, and he's going to feed them like I want him to. Since you won't do it, I got somebody who will. The 24th verse. And I, Yahweh, will be their Elohim, and my servant David, a prince among them. I, Yahweh, have spoken it. Since you ain't going to do it, I will do it. You always talking about the people and never talking about yourself. You the reason why the people are scattered, and you the reason why the people have become a prey. Furthermore, in the book of Ezekiel 37, watch what it says. In the book of Ezekiel 37, 21st verse. And say unto them, thus says Yahweh, behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the heathen, wherever they have gone, and will gather them on every side, and bring them into their own land, like a shepherd would do to his flock. Bring them together. But you think our people want to come together? No. Why? Because there's no shepherd, no true shepherd. And I will make them one nation in the land upon the mountains of Israel. One king shall be king to them all, and they shall be no more two nations. Neither shall they be divided into two kingdoms any more at all. Neither shall they defile themselves any more with their idols, nor with their detestable things, nor with any of their transgressions, but I will save them out of all their dwelling places wherein they have sinned, and will cleanse them. So shall they be my people, and I will be their Elohim. And David, my servant, shall be king over them, and they shall all have one shepherd, which is David. They shall also walk in my judgments, observe my statutes, and do them. And watch the 25th verse. And they shall dwell in the land that I have given unto Jacob my servant, wherein your fathers have dwelt. And they shall dwell therein, even they, their children forever. And my servant David shall be their prince forever. And why? Because to be a shepherd, to be a king, to be a prince, to be a leader, don't you know that you got to be a man after Yahweh's heart? Yahweh is looking for a perfect heart. He's looking for a certain type of man who won't make a bunch of excuses and blame everybody else. He's looking for a man that's going to take responsibility for the flock. Feed the flock. Look out for the health of the flock. The disease of the flock. And will try to heal them. This takes a certain type of man. And any other type of man outside of this is not a man after his own heart. So if you are a leader, don't look down. Look in the mirror, because you are supposed to be exemplifying, demonstrating the very thing you teach, the very thing you believe, in the walk that the people must walk. Look in the mirror. Change yourself. And maybe, just maybe, everything else will fall into place. The prince. That's what we're talking about. We know who the king of heaven is. We know who the king of earth is. But watch this in the book of Daniel, the 12th chapter. Because, again, a little do people know how great a prince is supposed to be. Watch this. In Daniel, the 12th chapter, the very first verse. And at that time, shall Michael stand up. And who is Michael? Well, it's an angel. This is an angel. Watch what it says. And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the children of your people. In other words, Abraham was called a mighty prince. This angel is called a great prince, because they want you to understand they are a prince, but they are the cream of the crop. They the best. They the most choice. And here it is, this angel was called a great prince, which stands for the children of your people. And we know he's standing for our people. The fact that he's standing for our people makes him a great prince. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation even to that same time. And at that time, your people shall be delivered. And who's going to be there? This great prince. Everyone that shall be found written in a book. And look at the type of great blessing, great deliverance that's going to happen in the second verse. And many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. In other words, Yahweh will even bring back the dead. No wonder this time will be like no other time ever. And who will be there? Standing for our people, the great prince, which stands for our people. But if you don't want to be an example of a king, which is a man after Yahweh's own heart, well, then try to be a great prince, a mighty prince. But this is what you're going to find. This also is a man after Yahweh's heart. So No more excuses. No more pointing the finger. No more blaming others that below you. It's my wife's fault. It's my children's fault. It's this person's fault. That person's fault. It's women's fault. It's so-and-so fault. It's the handmaid fault. No, it's your fault. It's your fault. You the ones that's supposed to be the example and no one else. You are the one that lead the flock. Shall not the shepherd feed the flock? According to righteousness, yes, he do. So until tomorrow, Yahweh love you, and so do I. Shalom. And we will get to the very next position, order position, and let's see how he is. Shalom, shalom.
Yah lead us out of Babylon. Please take us from this Babylon. We're leaving out of Babylon. Finally leaving Babylon.
By the rivers of Babylon, we sat and wept. They made us sing songs of Zion. If I forget Jerusalem, remove my tongue until I lose my breath. Happy is he that dash they little ones into the steps. Daughter of Babylon, America, the great whore, naked what you ashamed for. Come down and sit in the dust, the only place for who wage war. Raided our lands, when y'all repay his vengeance, he won't meet you as a man. His plague in Egypt began, leaving this place severed. Delivered us by temptations, signs, wonders, wars, a mighty hand stretched out arm and great terrors. The daughter of the Chaldeans no longer will be called the lady of kingdoms. They quarantined this time of judgment. Jacob's lives departed, return to Yah for the light when the skies is darkened. Only the wise regarded. So when these times are charted, leave Babylon departed and circumcise your heart.
Yah lead us out of Babylon. Please take us from this Babylon. We leaving out of Babylon. Finally leaving Babylon.
Say Yah, who shall abide up in your tabernacle? Who shall prevail right in your holy hill? The exodus of your servant is now being unveiled. The dust from all of us going is like the chemtrails. Left behind, these nations getting sifted like raffles. Aziz flying in the air like graduation tassels. The faces of our elites is left looking confused. They say they always with you, we inherited lies too. The bondage broken, chain shattered, no longer murdered. The same one who afflicted will leave my baby nurses. Raise hearses for the death of my people, curse it. The blessing of you so fleet, almost fainted these verses. We were brought to captivity, now the loser's winning. Your magnificent work is why these scribes are penning. The ruler is Beulah, judgment is how it's measured in it. The saints is marching on home, no incentive for sinning. Yeah.
Yah lead us out of Babylon. Please take us from this Babylon. We're leaving out of Babylon. Finally leaving Babylon.
Come on, yeah,
Yah lead us out, no longer can we stay. Yeah, it's been too long since we done been away. Yeah, we've been turned upside down, don't know our night from our day. Yeah, and all we do is listen to what our oppressors say. Yeah, so long I hope it has gone astray. Yeah, we lay down to every suitor in every way. Just to leave our hearts in complete disarray. Yeah, but Yahweh will save us according to what His words say. Yah lead us out of Babylon. Please take the